Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer, and today I'm gamesplaining Escape Plan. So I'm going to split this video into two parts. The first part will run through the game and the movements of everything around the game, and the second part will run through the actions of each space that you can go to. So if you are playing with someone who knows the game, you can probably get away with just watching the second video. If you want to watch the first video, that's really cool, and you'll get a real good idea of how everything runs. The aim of this game is to get to an exit. The exits are marked on these tiles. So those tiles are how this city grows, and we'll add those tiles in gradually as the game goes along. There are 3 exits. You will need to get to the one exit that doesn't have 2 of these cards on it at the end of the game, which is the 3rd round of the game. Exit order is relatively important. There's a card here that shows the exit order for the different numbers of players and how much you'll have to pay. So if you're playing a 3-player game, the first person out will get out without having to pay. The second person has to pay 5 money. The third person has to pay 10. If you're playing a 5-player game, the second and third both pay 5, and the fourth and fifth both pay 10. If you do not exit the city by the end of the game, you cannot win. You cannot get any points whatsoever. Points are based on how much money you have after you exit. You'll gain money through the game by visiting different spaces. Various things will cost you to do stuff. Let's run through what happens. The very first thing that happens is an income phase. It doesn't happen in the first round of the game. There are 3 rounds total. But the way income works is whatever is uncovered here, that's how much money you will take in. So if there's 1 cube out, and I'll talk about those cubes going out in a second, you'll get 8 money in if you take an income phase in. Running through the things. The very first thing that happens after the money is patrol phase, which is these cards. You flip up 2 of them and they merely go onto the numbers as marked. So that's number 1, number 2, they sit on there. What that's counting down to is which exits are going to be blocked out. Once an exit is blocked out, this pile of cards will go on top of it. There's a second pile for the other exit, so 2 of those exits will be blocked with those cards on them, and so they become locations that you can go to either take income or take money from those cards for the end of the game. The next thing that happens is, it's called the city action, and it's basically building our city out. So we start with just the 2 hexes on the board in player order. So orange, which is this person, would get to go first. They'll choose one of these 4 tiles up the top, and they'll add that on to the available locations to go to. So for example, orange might choose this one. All you need to do is make sure that at least one of the types of terrain are matching with something on the adjoining tile. Notice there are some police on them, and I'll show you how they get added in a second. Whenever one of these spots gets flipped over, the person who has put the tile down chooses what they wish to put on it. So that marker is for the safe houses, which is these 3. Just looking at these, and it's worthwhile either taking income or taking the 100 for him. That's a really high one, so it's probably worth getting that one out early. This card lives normally face down, so no one else at the table has it. Everyone's numbers are slightly different. You also have this, which would normally be around your money. Because of the space available to us, I have elected to just make that available knowledge in this game. But in terms of the actual playing of it, all the money and your card would be behind one of those screens. Add house 3 to what has been put up there. The next one down, which is green, is going to add this one, and he will add that way. So what happens whenever one of these comes out is the picture of the bikers. The bikers will go on top, 2 of them per spot. That symbol is talking about these 6, so he'll choose one of those 6, probably according to what he has here, and he might go for some income early on. Put down the nightclub. It's purple is going to put his down this way. Now notice that F, that means that there's ferry, so there's the ability to cross this water now for all the tiles that have that water on it. There's not the ability to cross this water at the moment. At the art gallery. Orange, and he gets to place another tile. And I think for the purposes of what we're doing, he might throw that one in. Nothing gets added to that. Once those tiles have been put out, we flip the new tile so you can see which pieces of the city are coming up. And drawing from the bag, we put 2 new police onto each tile. If you pull out 2 of the same colour, only one of that colour goes onto the tile. The other one goes aside until you've finished drawing them all, and then they go back in the bag. We move on to the next phase, which is turn order. So what happens with the turn order phase, we're looking at this board, and if everything's on the same level, we just reverse the order. So purple will be the first player, green then orange. If that's what it looked like, we would stay exactly where we are. If it looked like that, green would come to the top, so first up this track goes to the top. These 2 are equal, so these 2 are then swap order. And we'll talk about movement around that track in a moment. We then move to the player actions phase, which is going to be the next video. So I'm going to skip that for the moment because that is the majority of the game. So we'll just move forward a little bit. Through their actions of the first part of the day, we've managed to get or lose some notoriety. So what happens is these cubes mark the movement. So this one's moving up 1. Green is moving up 2, and purple is moving down 1, but he's already up 1, so he stays where he is. Green has crossed this line, which means every other player will move a policeman towards them. The police are these guys who are hanging out on the board. They're not able to go on this space with the hospital, and they're not able to have 2 of the same coloured police on the same hex. We move them towards each other. So purple goes first, and he's going to move a red one across to there. So that's come closer to where the green is. Orange is going to move a black one off his space, so he doesn't have to come up against as much. Green also then gets to take one of these tiles off his board and put it over here. What stuff is doing over here is it's one-off usage, but you're going to have to spend money to use it. So this one would allow him to have an extra action. It will cost him 5 money to use it. Whatever he brings across will cost him 4 money to use. So let's say he brings that key across. I'll talk about keys in a moment. They'll cost him 4 money to use. Once he has used that, however, that gives him 10 money at the end of the game for every tile that's being used. We then reset the order according to this order here. So purple goes to the bottom, green goes to the top, orange to the middle, and then we take turns again, which once again will be in the next video. At the end of the 3rd day, all this stuff happens as we've just discussed. Anyone who happens to have one of these on their board is able to use them now to get another turn, or they can just keep it there. When you choose not to use that, or if you don't have one, you flip this token over, then you flip over any of the used items. So if you, for example, had purchased that and used it, it would do that, and I'll talk about that in the next video. But at this point, when you rest, that then flips back over, so it's available to you for the next turn. The same with any cards you have down here, which are those cards over on the side. We'll talk about them a bit more in the next video. If you have taken wounds, you would take wounds if you move from a spot that has police. So I have, let's say he moved from there to there. There's 3 police on his spot, 1 of each colour. He at the moment has 1 thing to avoid the black police, but he doesn't have anything to avoid the other 2 police types. So he would actually take 2 wounds for that. Today he has a little band-aid thing. He can flip that over and throw 1 of the wounds back. If he's sitting at 3 wounds and needs to take another wound, he moves 1 of these cubes back, the handcuff spots, and puts it on the rightmost spot. Now, if there is 1 of these tiles there, that tile would go back to the box. If he's managed to move 1 of the tiles across, he's got space, so he can do that, and it's not covering anything up. All it does is stops him from being able to add things in future rounds. So you're not able to add anything to where there are handcuffs sitting. Another handcuff, he would have to choose 1 of these 2 to go back to the box, and the other one would stay there. So he could do that and put a handcuff on there. If all of these 3 are covered up with these cards, and we'll talk about these cards in a moment, and he gets handcuffs, that one is going to get covered. The tiles that you gain from here or from these cards, tiles from over there that you gain from the board, can be used at any time. They're called executive actions. So the little number on the bottom here is how much it will cost to use that. So you had this one in, and what they do is actually written on the back of the rule book. So this is what all those contact cards do. To use this, it would cost him 2 money when he uses it, and you flip that over. And once again, when you get to the end of the day, when you rest, you would flip that card back, as well as that card and that one. Go into what each of those cards do. There's too many of them, and you need to just look at the back of the book. These tiles all have different things that they can do, and once again, they will cost you money. They will cost you money to purchase them, so you've paid for them already to get onto the board, and then flip them over whenever you wish. They're one use only, so once they're used, they will be sent away to the box. You can use gang members, which are these guys. So Mode has a gang member. What a gang member does is allows him to avoid any police on a tile. So if he were to move from here to get into that spot, he would have to avoid those 3 police. He could use one of his bikers to avoid them all and get on there. Noticing that he's avoiding police on tiles that he's leaving, he doesn't have to avoid the police on the tile he's going to. And paying to use an unlocked asset, which we have already talked about. Look, I think that's pretty much everything to the game. There are 3 days in the game. Once you finish that 3rd day, anyone who has exited the city is then able to win the game. So you just add up how much money you have in actual money, actual cash, and money that has been promised to you, minus any money with that little red symbol, which is on the notoriety track or on this track. Look, I'll leave it there. Please go on and watch my 2nd video to get a feel for what the actual actions themselves are, and watch my games play to get a feel for how the game actually plays. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. If you have any games that you wish to be gamesplained, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter at thegamesplainer to keep up to date with the games I'm playing. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.